What's going on, guys? Balkan Architect here, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you every single tool that's on the annotation tab in Revit. So I've done a few similar videos. I have created a video where I show you each tool on the architecture tab in Revit. That was kind of my 500th video special. Then I've done every single structure tool in Revit, and that was a two-part series. And now we're going over to the annotate tab, and I'm just going to be showing you every single annotation tool that's available within Revit. So I hope this is going to be an interesting video. I'm going to be perhaps touching on some tools that you have never used before, so it might be interesting for you to see how they're used. And yeah, that's the topic of today's video. Now, if you're serious about learning Revit, I would like to encourage you to check out my website, balkanarchitect.com. I'm going to link it up just below this video in the description, and then also up in the cards above. There you can find all of my courses. I've got over 130 hours of content, and I'm adding obviously more each month. Also there you can find some of my customized Revit templates. You can find some really high quality Revit families, as well as a plugin, so make sure to check it out. Also make sure to like this video, it helps me out a lot, and also make sure to subscribe. Not only does it help you not miss any of my future videos, but also it makes the alpaca happy, and well, that's why we're all here. Okay, so without any further ado, let's jump into Revit, and this is what we have. So this is just a simple house that I have created for some tutorials. And I'm just going to be using this in order to kind of demonstrate all of these tools. Now we're going to be inside of this floor plan view for most of this video, because obviously annotation tools are used either in floor plans or sections and so on, not so much in 3D views. Also keep in mind that if you want to get this particular project file, you can find that on my Patreon page, which is going to be also linked up below this video in the description and in the cards above. Okay, so now for the annotate tab. So if I just go here on the annotate tab, we have a few panels. We have dimensions, we have details or detail tools, we have text, tags, color fill, and symbols. So let's start with dimensions. The first one, or the first two, are the aligned dimension and the linear dimension. So the difference between these two is that the aligned one is aligned, and the linear one always stays either vertical or horizontal. So if I want to place an aligned dimension, I can just come in here and then pick out, let's just do individual references. I'm not going to be explaining each tool too much, just to keep this quick. I do have tutorials on dimensioning in Revit too, so you can check those out. So anyways, you can place dimensions like this, but because it's an aligned dimension tool, you can also place dimensions on angled walls, such as this one here, and then we can place it like that. So there you go. However, if you use the linear dimension tool, it's only going to allow you to place horizontal and vertical dimensions like so. It's not going to allow you to have a dimension that follows the wall. So you can use these dimensions for dimensioning things like walls or something like that, but I think that the aligned dimension is probably the one that's used most. You can see that one has a shortcut, DI, whereas the linear dimension doesn't really have a shortcut. Okay, moving forward, we have the angular dimension. So this just gives you an angle. So if I come in here, I'm just going to use the tab key to select the inside of the wall here and here, and then we can get the angle of that wall. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Let's then move on to the next ones, which is radial, diameter, and arc length. Now all of these have to do with circles, semicircles, and so on. So here I have a few circles and I'm going to say circle segment or an arc. So if I want to do a radial dimension, I would just come in here and let's go to the inside. So use the tab key to select the inside of this, and then you can just place that dimension like that. Hit the escape key a few times. Let's now go to the diameter one. So again, just select the inside, and then you get the diameter of this circle. Moving forward, we do have the arc length. So basically what you want to do is, if you want to measure kind of the length of a wall segment, for example, that's arced. Well, arched. Is it arched? I think it's arched. Anyways, you just select the line that you want to measure. So is it the outside, the center, the inside? So let's say the outside. Then you select the beginning and you select the end, and then you can just place that dimension. So this is 247 centimeters in total, the length from here, and then just the whole kind of arched line of this wall. Okay, moving forward, we have the spot elevation and spot coordinates. So spot elevation obviously gives you the elevation at a certain spot. It usually comes with a leader like this. You can turn off the leader, so if I want to turn that off, I can just place it like that, so it can be a little bit simpler. If you move it, it's just going to display the height wherever you are. So if you go here on the steps, it's just going to display the steps. Here, this is a bit higher. Same thing goes if you place it on a ramp like this. If you move it along, it's going to display different numbers as you're kind of moving alongside the ramp. And if you place it in empty space, it's just going to give you a whole bunch of errors, and it's going to want to delete itself. So anyways, that's how you can place these spot elevations. And it also has a shortcut, EL. Okay, moving forward, we have the coordinate or spot coordinate. So this basically just gives you the position north and east, and then from there, kind of from your project base point, it's going to be measuring that. Also, you can add a leader, so if you want to, you can have a leader, and also when you move it, you can kind of move it around, and we can see, okay, we're getting closer to the project center point, and it's somewhere over here, I guess. So anyways, that's the spot coordinate. Moving forward, let's go with the spot slope. So the spot slope, you have to have something sloped. So here I have this ramp, so this is just at an angle, and it displays slope. Now, as I said, I'm not going to go too much into these tools, but for this one I have to, because I hate this. So I'm just going to select it, go into Edit Type, and here under under the units format, you can change the format, and I prefer just using percentage, and then you can add a couple of decimal places and also add a symbol if you want. I want to, so I'm going to do that and hit apply and OK, and now there we go, we have the angle of this particular ramp. Okay, moving forward, let's now go to the detailing tools. So the detailing tools are usually for creating bold details or adding a bit more detail to your model elements in floor plan views, sections, detail views, callouts, and so on. So what I'm going to do first is let's go here to the line tool. The L is the shortcut, so it's an important tool when it has a shortcut. And then here you can select the draw tools, just like you would for drawing walls, or not walls, but floors, things like that you have a boundary. And then you can just draw things. So you can switch to an arc, and yeah, you can draw things. Fairly simple and straightforward. Here under line style, you can specify different line styles. So if you want to go with wide lines, you can. If you want to go with regular lines, they're green for some reason, so there we go. You can go with overhead lines, and yeah, so you can select different lines and use them. And at any point, you can select the line segments, and then you can just change them to a different like line, so medium line, for example. Okay, moving forward, let's go to region. So region, we have masking region and filled region. So let's start with filled region. So this is for adding a filled region or a pattern to your model. So I can go here, I can select any one of these. So for example, I can go lines, hatch, cross hatch. You can go with wood, solid, black, and so on. So these are all types. You can go here to edit type, and then you can change which pattern you want to use. So it's very simple. Now here I'm just going to go with diagonal crosshatch, for example, and then you just kind of create a segment. Obviously you can sketch it out however you like. So for example, you can do it like that, I don't know. Now something to keep in mind is the edges. The edges are going to be lines. So when I hit finish, here we have that hatch, but you can see that it has lines on the outside. Now you can actually customize those lines. So when you go to edit boundary, you can see this isn't in those, you know, those magenta, kind of pinkish lines that Revit uses. This is not that. So it's going to have dark lines, which means that if you select any of these, you can change the line style. So I can have this one as a thin line, and then I can have this one as a medium line, and then I can have this one as a wide line, and then this one can be a regular line and green, and then this one can be a hidden line, and then even I can select these two and make them invisible lines. So when I hit finish, those are invisible, and then the rest of these are kind of weird. So you can customize the lines. That's what I'm trying to say. Same thing goes with the masking region, but this one is obviously for, as the name would imply, masking. So if you want to mask anything, you can just kind of create whatever. Let's create a circle, and then also you can customize the line style. So for these, I tend to use invisible lines for most cases because I don't want to see the boundary. So if I just set this to invisible lines and then hit finish, it's just going to give me like a blank circle there, but you can always select it and edit it and so on. So it's pretty cool. Then we have components. So these are detail components. So you have a couple of options. You have a detail component, and then you have a repeating detail component. So a detail component, here we have a universal beam. You can just come in there and you can place it wherever, like that. And also something to show you here, you can actually bring this to front. So you can kind of play around with the positioning of your detail elements. So just something to keep in mind. Anyways, this is a simple eye profile, universal beam profile. However, you have a repeating detail component, which is good for laying out things like bricks. So you can just click, and then it's just going to have like a repeating brick here. See, these are bricks. If I turn the thin lines, so this obviously is more to be used in callouts, detail views, things like that. Moving forward, we have revision clouds. So we can create a revision cloud. Obviously, this is just how to create a little cloud. Revisions have a lot more information and a lot more functionality. Again, I have a video on that, so I'm not going to go too deep into that. Next we have, let's go with insulation first, and then I'll talk about detail groups. So insulation is, well, obviously for placing insulation. So you can just come in there and find a layer for insulation. You can place insulation, you can stretch it out. You can select it, you can play around with the width. So you want the width to be 7, apply, now it's smaller. And also the insulation bulge to width ratio. So if I set this to 1, hit apply, it looks weird like this. If I set it to 5, hit apply, it's small like this. So most cases 3 is going to give you like the best ratio, best option. Okay, now I set detail groups. So detail groups, if I go to place a detail group, it's going to tell me that we don't have any detail groups, so it cannot place them. However, I can create one. So if I just come in here, select these bricks, select these lines, and I don't know, let's just select a bunch of detail items. So if I select them, I can go here to create group, and I can group them, and this is going to be a detail group. So when I click OK, it's going to group them. Now if I go here to detail group and go to place detail group, I can place this same detail group as many times as I like on my model. Okay, let's now move forward. So let's talk text. So for text, you can just come in here, you can click, and then you can place some text. Okay, there we go, perfect. And then you just click on the outside to kind of finish. You can select the text, and then it has different types, just like any other family. And with text types, you can actually change its size, and you can go into edit type, and there are many more parameters that you can play around with. So that's how you place text. Next we have spell checking, or check spelling. Spell check is complete, so no issues here. Now if you did have issues, so if I place something like that and then go check spelling, it's going to bring this up, and then I can either change it, or it's actually going to kind of give me options what I may have tried to say. So that's cool. So you have that option so you don't make any mistakes in your model. Moving forward, we have find and replace. So for example, if you want to replace text, is this a capital T? Yes, it is. So let's say I want to replace text with, and then I can replace it with ABC, for example. I can say find all. So here we go, we have it, and let's say replace all. Okay, and now this says ABC. So if you want to replace something with something else, this is how you do it. Then we have a tag or tags. We have a whole panel for tags. So here we have the first option, which is tag by category. You just select something and okay, we don't have a tag for this loaded in. Okay, so you can select a wall and then you can place a tag. Here this one allows you to just place a text. Okay, say 1. Yes. Okay, there we go. So you can just make those wall tags, for example. And this tool works with any category, so you can place it on doors, you can place it on windows. So that's basically how this tag by category works. We have tag all, which is basically you specify the category and then it's going to tag all elements. So I can say tag, I don't know, we can tag whatever. We have floors, tag doors. Yeah, let's go tag doors. And then if I hit apply, as you can see, all doors will get a tag. So that's how that works. Next we have beam annotations. So if you have a beam, let's go and make one. So let's place a beam here, just like that. Now it's invisible because we cannot see it, and we cannot see it because of the view range. So let's go to view range and change this to unlimited for a second here. Now we can see the beam. Oops, what happened? Did I undo this? Okay, perfect. So if I go back to annotate and if I go to beam annotation, basically it allows you to kind of create a complex custom beam annotation. So here, for example, on the start, I can have spot elevation, and then I can have spot elevation at the end, and then in the middle I can have like a structural framing tag. Click OK, OK, and now as you can see, this is the elevation at the start and this is the elevation at the end. And if I change something here, obviously this will change the tag and the elevation markers. So that's quite cool. Next we have, let's see, where were we? We have a multi-category tag. So this is a tag that can be used for multiple categories. By default, it's not loaded in, but if I load one in, you can go here. Let me show you. So you go to your default Revit library, then you go to annotation, then you go here and just scroll down until you find a multi-category tag. Hit open, and basically you can tag whatever you want, multiple categories. And then if they have something, for example, here for the window, as you can see, this it's going to say 18. So if I select that window, you'll see that if I go into edit type, here we should see, yeah, type mark is 18. So from there we can kind of figure out that this is basically reporting the type mark. And then we can say, okay, this doesn't have a type mark. So if I go into edit type, yeah, type mark is empty. So if I write anything in here, hit apply, okay, as you can see, that's going to be reported on that tag. So that's how those tags work. Next we have the material tag. So I actually really like this one because you can actually come in here and then you can see we have common brick, then we have air, then we have whatever, then we have again whatever, and then we have some gypsum. So you can actually tag all of the individual kind of materials inside of your project. So it doesn't have to be really just the wall. Can you tag everything? No. But you can tag most things. Okay, this one probably doesn't have a specified material, I guess. I think it doesn't. Let's see. Yeah, this is probably empty, yeah. But if you were to choose some material, it's just going to, okay, roofing material, really bad, but anyways, as you can see, it works. So that's how those material tags work. Then let's talk about the tags for rooms, spaces, areas. So they all work pretty much the same. So let me just show you the room one. Wherever you have rooms, you can kind of tag them, and we have tagged those rooms. Now keep in mind, when you place rooms in Revit, they're going to be kind of tagged automatically by default. It's available in the tools itself. So if you haven't done that for some reason, yeah, you can tag them here. Next we have the view reference. So this has to do mostly with, for example, if you have like a, let me show you. If you have like a little detail call out, let's say, so we have a call out here. There we go, we have a call out. And now if I were to have a sheet, new sheet, A1, perfect. And then if I place a call out on that sheet, and let's place you in this floor plan on that sheet. There we go. Now if I go back here to my floor plan view, I can create a, let's see, annotate. Okay, so I can go to that view reference, and then I can basically see on which on which sheet this is placed. So you can see that here you can set up the view reference, it's a floor plan, and then it's a level 1 callout. And then obviously you can change it to be 3D, ceiling plan, section, elevation, structural plan, and so on. So it's going to work with multiple categories of views. Okay, moving forward, let's go back to the Annotate tab. Okay, this is over 20 minutes long, so I'm sorry that it's taking so long, but we're going through all of the tools, and there are a lot of tools. Okay, let's go to the thread number. This is cool. You come in here, and then you can basically see how when you hover over the staircase, you get these kind of bluish lines, and then if you click, it's just going to add numbers to each of the steps, which is kind of cool. I really like this option. So we have that. Next, we have the multi-rebar annotation. Basically, this is for kind of structural projects where you have multiple rebars, so you can kind of tag that, or both add annotation as well as a tag. So it's very simple, very straightforward. You just click and you're done. Next we have Keynotes. So you have Keynote settings, so you can set up your kind of keynotes. Usually it's a text file with all of the keynotes, and then that can be used. Now here, if I go to material keynote, for example, I can come in here and then just go like that, place it, and then it's just going to ask me for a keynote. And then I can say, I don't know, like concrete, whatever, keynote, and then I can just click OK, and it's going to add that keynote there. So that's basically how keynoting works, and then you can do the same thing for elements and so on. Then we have the color fill legend. So as you can see, we have for duct, for pipe, and for room, or not only rooms, but we're going to be demonstrating this on rooms, the color fill legend. So basically you just place it somewhere like here, and then you want to specify what this legend is for. So if I go with rooms and then by name, click OK, and it's just going to have, like, because we have only one room name, which is room, it's the same for these two. However, if I change this one, something like that, there we go. So this one's now blue, bluish, and this one is kind of greenish, uglyish. So there we go. That's how these colors work. Now let me just bring up a different project here. Yeah, so I have this project. This is a plumbing project. This is from a plumbing course. You can find it on my website if you're interested. But anyways, let's just quickly go over the pipe legend, which is similar to duct legend, which is you just click here, and then again you just place that legend, and then here you specify the color scheme. So here let's go with pipe color fill size, so it's according to size, and then because you have multiple sizes, it's just going to add that additional color fill through to your items. So that's basically how that works. So it's just basically according to that legend, and then according to the size of the pipes. So you can add that as well. Now let's go to our original project. Okay. Next we have symbols. So symbols, you can use, this is like a central line symbol, and you can just use symbols. They're very similar to components, so I'm not going to go too much into these. This is a north arrow symbol, which I really don't like because it's empty. How you can select it, and then you can add a leader, and I guess, I don't know, you can like specify the direction in which, I don't know, north is, maybe? I don't know. I really don't like this family. If any of you have any explanations why this family looks like this and how it's meant to be used, please tell me in the comment section below, because I really don't know, and I really don't understand it. Anyways, let's move forward, and then here we have some symbols. For example, the stair path symbol. So if I go here to the stair, click on the stair, it's going to give that up path. And then here we have, for example, span direction. So if I click on this, I can place that span direction, and so on. So these are kind of structural ones, and this is for path reinforcement, area reinforcement. So this is kind of concrete reinforcement, and you can just basically add a few symbols It's basically the same thing as this, just for other kind of reinforcement symbols. And there we go. That's pretty much all of the tools on the Annotate tab on the ribbon. So I hope you have enjoyed this video. It was a little bit longer, but I think we have covered them all, and I hope you have perhaps learned about a new tool. I know when I learned about the stair numbering, I thought that was super cool. So that's one of the tools that I use regularly now. Please tell me in the comment section below, have you learned about any of these tools for the first time now? Do you find them interesting? And if you have any recommendations for any other videos, please tell me that as well. Thank you for watching, guys. Make sure to check out my website, balkanarchitect.com, for more Revit courses. There I have over 120 hours of content, and I'm adding more each week. Make sure to subscribe for more videos, and also I've added a video over there that might interest you as well.